doing the work is not a one-time thing. You
Yeah.
don't do it and then finish doing it. And I think the work that we do with our clients around mindset, whether it's money mindset or mindset about any other type of topic, it's work that we do together, but it's not necessarily work that we complete with them,
Right.
right?
You're listening to the Life Edit Project podcast, where busy, ambitious high achievers get the tools they need to fight perfectionism and overwhelm so they can smash their goals without all the drama. I'm your host, recovering overachiever turned professional life coach, Elizabeth Burrows. Let's get to it.
Good day, good people. Welcome back to a very special episode of the Life Edit Project podcast. As always, I am your favorite life coach and podcast host, Coach Elizabeth, and I am super excited because I have a very special guest on today's episode. I am so excited. How many times have I said excited already? So, we're going to have a really good conversation today. Y'all don't even know what kind of treat I have in store for you. Today's episode, we are talking about money mindset for recovering perfectionists because actually last season, at the end of last season, another coach friend of mine challenged me to do an episode about money mindset. And I have to be totally honest and say I avoided bringing this topic to the podcast because I have all kinds of thoughts and challenges with my own money mindset. Not to say that my money mindset is completely jacked up, but it's a bit of a sensitive subject for me, and so I did not feel like I had all the tools to bring that conversation to the podcast all by myself. And then I realized that it didn't just have to be me, that I could call on my community and bring in an amazing guest and have an amazing conversation for you all that will just add so much value to you. So let me introduce my guest and my friend,
Friend.
Tiffany Burns. Yeah, we're friends.
We're friends. Real bad.
Real bad. Tiffany Burns. Tiffany Burns is a money and mindset coach. And we originally connected on Instagram. I don't know how many years ago now. It's been a minute.
It's been years. Yes.
It's
I
it's
started
been years.
my business started in 2020. I feel like we from the like you were one of the early ones. I feel like we've been around.
I feel like we were pre-pandemic friends.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So so we got history, y'all.
Yep. We
This
go
is
together
not
real bad.
even our first recorded conversation together. This is just the
Yeah.
first time I'm getting you on the podcast, which I feel like is a travesty. What took me so long to invite you onto this podcast?
Well, first of all, I am so honored to be here because I know that listen, this is your space, right? And so to be invited into this space and to have this conversation with you, I'm honored to be here and I am so looking forward to this conversation. Whenever we talk, like it's always just very fruitful. The energy is always great. And so let's get into it.
Yes, yes, yes. Okay. So I've told the people that you are Tiffany and that you are a money and mindset coach, but there is so much more to your story. Please tell the people about your coaching business, who you normally work with, and what it is that you do and how you got started. Give the people all the tea.
Yes. Okay. So I'm Tiffany Burns, money and mindset coach. I am the founder of the Lotus Legacy, which is a personal finance coaching business. And this is a short version of how I got here. I got here because life thrusted me into this business. I grew up in a household like a lot of clients that I work with where money management wasn't taught. And it was something that I kind of just picked up a lot of things. Things were caught, not taught in my household. And I went into adulthood. I like to call myself financially clumsy. I made a lot of mistakes with money in early adulthood. And I went into my marriage with that mindset. And my husband and I found that we were $91,000 in debt in a really short amount of time. And I had a vision of what I wanted my life to look like when we realized how much debt we were in. And at that moment, I knew I had a choice to make, and I chose to do something different. And so we were able to pay that debt off in 3 years. I studied under a lot of different financial experts and gurus. But along my financial transformation, I realized that money is not as challenging, it's not as intimidating, it's not as scary, overwhelming, all of these negative and emotions that I was feeling towards money. It wasn't any of those things. And I can actually use this money as a tool to create the things that I saw in this vision that I had. So whether that was traveling, buying homes, having money for just in savings for security reasons and building wealth and all these different things. So that is how I got here, because I realized that there were still more women who believe that money is intimidating and it's scary, and that they don't want to have these conversations and have just beliefs that might not be helping them get to where they want to be in life when it comes to their finances. And I wanted to be a resource and a tool and a guide to help people along their financial transformation. So the short version of the business of the Lotus
Yes.
Legacy, what I absolutely love, I love money, and I love yoga. In yoga, the lotus flower is a symbol of like a rebirth and a fresh start. And so in the Lotus Legacy,
Yes.
you get a chance to have a rebirth and a fresh start when it comes to your money.
That's so good. I don't think I ever realized the connection or the symbolism behind the lotus, even
Yeah.
though I know that you integrate yoga a lot into your business.
Yeah.
Actually, tell the people how you're integrating yoga into your coaching practice because it's really
Yeah.
special.
Yeah. So um again, my financial transformation happened at the same time as my fitness transformation happened, and when I started practicing yoga. But I wanted to incorporate the two and bring the two together. So I actually host it's a money mindfulness session called Money on the Mat, where we incorporate movement and yoga with money affirmations, and we talk about different money topics. So whether it's your money story or financial fears, we talk about so many different things that might be prohibiting you from getting to where you want to be. And again, just making that like mind body connection to help us um, really change our lives.
That's so dope. Y'all, I have the dopest friends. And I am connected to some of the dopest coaches out there. So it's just stay connected, stay tuned, because we're going to get you right here. And that's so good because I think a big part of mindset work is learning to move past just what's happening in your head and really embodying whatever it is that you're learning or whatever it is that you're trying to unlearn. And there are so many things that there's so many different ways that our body remembers things that our brain tries to forget. And we can just get stuck, not just in patterns of thinking, but in patterns of how we move through the world and in patterns of how we hold things in our body. And so I just I love the idea of incorporating the mindset into a yoga mat session. I just think that's brilliant. And if I lived closer to you, you would probably see me join you.
Listen, there are big plans for Money on the Mat. Listen, whether it's virtual or taking this show on the road, is Money on the Mat is going to be available to more people than just the DMV. But if you're in the DMV, pull up.
Awesome. Next time I come up that way, I will have to let you know. Okay.
Yeah, for sure.
So that is a really good segue. So let's talk a little bit about money mindset. Tell me, actually, no. Back up because I forgot to ask. So, what kinds of clients do you normally work with, and how do you usually work with them? Because I think
Yeah.
that's also important.
Yeah. So right now, primarily, I work with clients one-on-one. And so I love working with women, professional women who are focused, who are driven. I love working with moms who are like, okay, I got to figure this out for me and my babies. But women just in general, I love helping women just, again, overcome whatever fears, anxieties, the bad habits that they have with money. So in one-on-one sessions right now is all I'm offering. And then if you get on my newsletter, which I'm sure Elizabeth will put in the show notes, make sure that you stay connected, because there are some different opportunities for like community connection. Again, all of the amazing events that are happening. But if you want to work with me for coaching purposes, it's one-on-one.
Yes. Perfect. Okay. So and I thought you would just make such a good guest for this podcast because we are talking to the same person.
Yeah.
And we are talking to them to help them with a lot of similar challenges. But you have kind of a heavy hitter background when it comes to the money mindset and really the money strategies that
Mhm.
go with, embodying the change that comes with changing your mindset around money. So I think one of the first real questions I want to ask you is tell me, what is your definition of money mindset? How do you explain that?
I feel like it's one of those things, those words or phrases that has become like overcomplicated. Your money mindset is a set of beliefs that you have around something. And this is perfect timing, right? Because Inside Out 2 just came out and they just introduced, well, spoiler alert.
I haven't seen it yet.
They
No, no, no.
okay, all right, no spoilers. All right, can't say this. They introduced the belief system to the emotions, right? Because your belief system is part of your mind. But your money mindset is a set of beliefs that you have around money and all of the different experiences that you have in life, whether it's from childhood, adulthood, your present, are things that are help shaping what you believe is true about money. And we have lots of conversations around like scarcity and lack and abundance and all these different mindsets. And I just like to make it as simple as possible. Carol S. Dweck, who was one of the leading like psychologists who has pioneered the mindset work, she just really plainly generalized it as there's a growth mindset and there's a fixed mindset. And so we don't have to get into the semantics of like scarcity and lack and abundance and all those different things. Like if your mindset is fixed on something, it means that you can't change it. Whereas a growth mindset, you're going to be looking for room for improvement. You don't see failures as something that are make or break. You see possibilities and opportunities in different things. And so if your money mindset is a belief system that is either fixed or has growth, you are going to either see that money is bad, you're going to run away from different things and avoid your finances and all those different things. So if you're looking at it from a growth perspective, you're going to be more open to taking risks and different challenges and not seeing as money failures or money mistakes as failures. You'll be able to see those things as lessons and just keep on going.
Yeah, that is so good. That's basically the same thing that I say when someone asks me, like, what does money mindset mean? And even though a lot of my clients don't come to me for money mindset coaching, oftentimes finances and money comes up in our sessions because I am often working with mostly women and a lot of them are going through some type of transition and a lot of them actually are going through career transitions or they are on an entrepreneurial journey. Maybe they, have a full-time job, but they are trying to start a business on the side or transition into full-time entrepreneurship from full-time employment. And so, there are thoughts and beliefs and fears and all kinds of emotions that come up about money and finances and the future. And so I often end up having to address a lot of money mindset in my coaching with my clients.
Yeah.
So yeah, so I see some of the same things, and I have the same conversation with them that your money mindset is not, it's not this little container, and it's not this one thing that you think about money, um, but it is all of the things that you think
Mm-hmm.
and believe about money. So your money mindset cannot be boiled down to just one statement.
Yeah.
And your money mindset is made up of things that you aren't even consciously aware of. Because, right? And this is, I have to imagine that this must be
Yes.
so much of the work that you do with your clients is just simply uncovering the things that they actually think and believe about money
Yeah.
that they don't even know is happening.
Yeah.
Because we literally, as coaches, cannot address or help our clients transform their mindset until we bring it to their awareness, right?
Yep.
Awareness is the first step in any part of that journey. And then they're also kind of very closely after the awareness has to come a desire to change and
Mm-hmm.
not and a lot of I think a lot of my clients get very stuck on the how, right?
Yeah.
How do I do it different? How do I get a different result? how do I reach my goal? But that is really almost the last step.
Oh
The
yeah,
how is it like there's so many things we have to get to before we can talk about
sure.
how,
Oh yeah. And
right?
that's one of the things that I mean, even with my clients, like I think one of the things that they think is when they start working with me is that we're gonna get straight to the numbers, right? There are so many things that happen before we even look at your numbers. We talk about your goals and your identity and your values and how all of these things show up in your finances. I have what I use is the GROW framework with my clients. So the G stands for goal setting. And so before we start looking at numbers, we need to really figure out your goals and from a really holistic perspective, not just I want to increase my credit score or even I want to buy a home, right? Like I want you to know why you want to buy that home, not just because we've been sold that it's the American dream. I want you to really think about the impact that this purchasing a home will have on you, right? So we need to build that really strong why. Your identity, your values, your purpose. What are all of those things that your anchor and your vision for your life? What does that look like? Right. I told you I had a vision for my life. I help my clients
Yes.
clarify that vision. Then we start to bring recognition, which is the awareness piece that you were just talking about. And before we get to the numbers, there's recognition of the money beliefs, the money story. What things are you telling yourself? What current situations, because like you said, the belief system are a culmination of experiences. It's not just like a one-time thing. So there might be some areas where you have a growth mindset and your belief system is like really positive and optimistic. And I again like work with high achieving women who are go-getters, who have no problem starting businesses and going out for promotions and they're executives and all of these things. So and when it comes to work and getting a bag, they have no problem with that. But then when it comes to their family members and creating boundaries and creating a plan for their finances and sticking to it, like those are the areas where we need to start really bringing awareness to. But then after that, then we get to the which is the outline. That's the plan, and then we get to the work, right? And so
Yeah.
there's a lot of things that happen before we get to the how. And I love that you say that because we really have to, especially when it comes to our finances, we really have to dig out this belief system if it's not helping you get to the life that you want to live. And we know our finances are interconnected to just about everything in our lives. And
Yes.
so if we're not financially well and our mindsets aren't calibrated to the right mindset that it needs to be, then it's going to be really difficult for us to reach our goals.
That is so good. That's so, so good. And I think it's really, this might be a good time to just acknowledge the fact that money doesn't mean the same thing to everybody.
Yes.
And I think that it's really easy to forget that because, me as a person, like when I think about money, I'm thinking about a particular thing, a particular, idea comes to mind. I'm thinking about a certain set of ways that I handle money and how I use money and what I want it for, right? And not everyone has the same associations with money.
Mhm. Yeah,
For some people, money means freedom. For other people, money means power. And those sound like the same thing, but they are not.
they are not. They are not. And even with that, I love that you just mentioned that because I work with, I and encounter a lot of women who say, "Oh, well, money doesn't motivate me. I don't really care about money. I just want to pay the bills and like I'll be fine and just kind of coast." But that's when like that beginning part of the work that I do with clients is important because so many people that I work with, they want some level of freedom, whether it's time freedom, the financial freedom. You want autonomy of your life.
Yeah.
And once you understand what that level of freedom means to you and what it could look like, then we start to reverse engineer it and figure out how we can make our finances align to that level of freedom. So I don't want you to worship money. You don't need to love money. But I do want you to use it and to see it in a way as a tool, again, that can help you create whatever it is that you want to create.
Yeah. Yeah. I think looking at money as a tool
Mhm.
is perhaps one of the most helpful perspectives that we can cultivate around money. And I happen to believe that because, okay, let me say this.
Yeah.
I tend to think about money very similarly to the way that I think about time. And I think I've talked quite a bit about some of my thoughts around time, and productivity, which is very closely related to time here on this show, on this podcast, because so many of my clients come to me and they're like, I need more time to do the things, right? And they're approaching time with this scarcity mindset, right? They're working, they're always operating from a deficit, right? And because or even if they don't have a deficit, there is more that they want and they haven't figured out how to get more out of the, it's all used up that they have, right? So they're trying to figure out, how do I stretch my time to go farther? And I think that it has been very helpful for me when working with myself and when working with many of my clients to just reframe our thoughts about time to thinking about it as a tool and thinking about it as a building block that helps us create the kind of life that we want. And I find that that perspective ends up being super helpful with money. And it's not right or wrong, right? Because money isn't just one thing. Whatever you think money is, you're right. Like, let me just say that, right? Right? Um, because you can find all the evidence for it and you will create whatever it is that you
Mm-hmm.
believe around money. However, if what you're looking to do is to reach your goals, money can be activated and utilized as a tool to help you get there. Period.
Yeah. Period. I feel like I'm good. I'm done. You did it. Well, and just to kind of continue that thought, right? If we think about money like a tool, I want you to think of a hammer. The exact same hammer that can build something is the same hammer that can destroy something,
Yes.
depending on how you intend to use it. And so I see a lot of people, whether it's
So good. That's so
yeah.
good.
And
Listen,
I see
I hope y'all
people
are
who
listening. Take notes,
who
grab your pen and
are
paper.
unintentionally, yeah, who are unintentionally destroying the house that they want to build, the life that they want to build by not using their money intentionally. And then if we just shift our focus and shift how we are using this tool, we get a completely different outcome. And so I always like to share that when we're thinking about like money as a tool, like a hammer, you can build or you can destroy with it.
I love me a good analogy. So let's take this, let's run with this right here, right? So let's think about all of the different kinds of tools. So let's think of money as the toolbox, right? And there are strategies in the toolbox, right? That are all the different ways that you can activate money as the tool to build the thing that you want, right? So there are all different kinds of things that you can do. So it's for some people, the only tool that they have in their money mindset toolkit is a budget, right? It's their hammer. It's the only thing they know how to pull out, and it's the only thing they know how to turn to. But it may not always be the tool that can help
Yeah,
you build the thing that you want.
yeah.
And so sometimes, like, you need to call in an expert who knows about more tools, right? If
Hmm.
it's not helpful to tell someone who doesn't know like anything except hammers and nails to use a look here, I can't even think of a different tool, a chainsaw, right? Like, it's very difficult. Like, what is a chainsaw if my only frame of reference is a hammer?
And we know that chainsaws in the wrong hands can be very dangerous, right? Like, so you need professionals. And so even in like to continue with this analogy, if we're thinking about like building something, if you're building a home, like you don't have one person building the entire house. There are some things that you might be able to DIY, but then if you need masonry, if you need plumbing, if you need electrical, you need to bring in some people who can do more things. And so, I think we've gotten to a space where a lot of people are trying to just DIY their finances and they're like, oh, I'm fine, I'll figure it out. I'm watching these Instagram videos, I see these TikToks, I'm on YouTube, I got the things. And that's a lot of the clients that I work with too. I start them with like, okay, well, what do you already know about money? And they know how to budget. They know different types of budgets. They know different types of accounts that they should or want to have. They have an idea of all the things. They just haven't been able to implement it, right? Because that
Yeah.
knowledge without application is not as good, right? We need applied knowledge as power. And there's time when you need to bring in the professionals. So if you can't DIY it, which again, if you're building something that you want to last, you're going to at some point need to bring other people in to help you build.
Yes, yes, yes. This is something that I say often. I don't say it quite in that way, but I'm always encouraging my audience and my community to build their own communities of support. That
Mhm.
your support system needs to have different kinds of people in it. And so actually, I think it was episode 7 of this show. I did an episode called "I'm Your Life Coach, Not Your Therapist or One of Your Little Friends," and it's because, like, as a life coach, I am bringing something totally different to the table in terms of the way that I support my clients. And so, no, I'm not a therapist, right? I'm not going to sit here and diagnose you. I'm not going to treat your mental illness, right? And
Yeah.
I am going to use a different set of tools to help you create change in your life. But yeah,
Yeah.
you're going to walk away feeling better after having worked with me. Absolutely. Yes. Um, but also, I'm not one of your little friends, right? Because so many times our friends, like, they might love us, but they have an agenda and they swear up and down that they know what's right for us, right?
Uh-huh.
And we might call them up and, ask for advice or want to vent. But friendships are relationships that are designed to be reciprocal and two-way, right? So if you always have that one friend and the only time you call them is when you need help or when you need to complain or vent, and you never have time to, be that shoulder for them to lean on, then that friendship is going to burn out real
Yeah.
fast, right? Because that's not what friendships are for. And so as a life coach, like, you get to come into our space, you get to know that you're going to be supported, and you don't have to feel any obligation to give back to me, because it's
Right.
it's all about you as the client, right? And you can trust that you're going to get some strategies, and you're going to trust that you get to use me in service of what it is that you're trying to do. And yes, sometimes you know what to do, but implementation is hard. And yeah, so you need support. You can't DIY everything. And
Mhm.
my coaching practice is called the Life Edit Project because I consider our lives as the ultimate DIY project. But
Mhm.
just because we're building it ourselves doesn't mean we're meant to be building it alone.
I
And
love that.
I am part of, those experts that my clients call in to help them, get to the next level when they don't have the resources or the expertise to just do it on their own.
I love everything you just said. And I remember when you were doing, you had content on the podcast and on Instagram about, just not always dumping and putting everything on your friends. And this is
Yeah.
something, the money piece is one of, if you can't talk to your friends for whatever reason, right? Whether it's because they don't know, you don't feel comfortable talking to them, you don't have to suffer in silence with your finances. This is when you would hire and bring in somebody who could support you in this sort of transformation, because let's be honest, right? Your money is still very personal. We play those cards really close to the chest.
Yeah.
And so there are times where you might not want to be vulnerable, but you need to be vulnerable if you want to see that change. And your friends might not have the bandwidth, the tools, or resources, the capacity. You might not feel safe to do that with them. And that's when bringing in those people. I love that you said that. Like, just because you're DIYing doesn't mean you have to DIY it alone. I love that.
Yeah.
And so, yes, please, please, please get people in your corner. But in the framework that I was talking about earlier in the W, part of the W doing the work is not just a one time, right? Because we're talking about things that take it's your life transformation. It's not an event, it's a process. And there might be different seasons of life where things are going well, and then they might not be going so well. And you need that you're always going to be doing the work. But part of that is identifying who your village is. Who is going to support you? How are you going to remain accountable and to stay the course when life starts to life and things don't look as good? Because you go through coaching and you're like, yes, I can tackle anything, and then
Hmm.
life starts whooping your behind, and then what, right?
Immediately,
Like,
like
so
immediately after the session, right?
immediately, immediately. Beyond, because again, like you said, we're not therapists, right? And my time with my clients, while I do have clients that I've been connected to for years and they can call me when they have things that they need. The initial coaching sessions are just usually like a cluster of like weeks at a time. And so beyond that, like I want to give you the tools and the resources so that you can go out and do the things. And part of that work, again, is just making sure that you have all the people in place. You know who you could call on. You know that you always have me, but just making sure that you have the right people in your corner that can support you.
One of the things that you just said that I feel we need to go back to and just dig in a bit deeper on is about how, when it comes to doing the work, it's not a one time thing. And I
Mhm.
feel like this is a principle that all of the recovering perfectionists in in my audience and in my community um are they need to hear. So y'all, if you're
Yeah,
taking notes, write that down, right? Doing the work is not a one-time thing. You
yeah.
don't do it and then finish doing it. And I think the work that we do with our clients around mindset, whether it's money mindset or mindset about any other type of topic, it's work that we do together, but it's not necessarily work that we complete with them,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
So even when we complete kind of a stretch, right, or a contract, or a cluster of sessions with our clients, it does not mean that their work is over. It
Mhm.
means that we have, you know given them some tools, we've given them some support, we've gotten them set up, and we've helped them, learn some of the moves and some of the strategies, and we've given them more tools for their toolbox,
Yeah.
but the house is still under construction, right?
Mhm.
And we've done our part. And if they need us again, they can call us back up, right? And we can come out and do another special round of sessions with them, work on a special project with them. But as long as we are living, and as long as our brains are manufacturing thoughts, and as long as we are conscious and believe things, we're always going to have to be working on our mindset,
Mhm.
because life always lives,
Yeah.
right? And we are constantly cultivating and honestly retiring different beliefs all the time.
Yes. Yes.
And because of that, because we're kind of always circulating different beliefs, and some have a longer shelf life than others, and because our life changes, right, we have to always be willing to go through that practice of examining what it is that we think and believe about money, about our time, right? About whatever, about ourselves. And we always have to be willing to swap something out, to let go of the things that no longer serve us, and to refine the things that are helping us get to where we want to be so that we can get there faster.
There's so many things that you just said. I love Atomic Habits. I think the pig is covering that book
It's
up.
such a great
Um,
book.
it's an amazing book. It's an annual read for me, and it's on my list of books that I like gift to my clients. That is, if they haven't read it already, I usually gift that one. In that book, he talks about like identity-based changes,
Yes.
but the way he talks about it is like the actions that you take are a vote for the person that you want to be.
Yes.
And in this journey, I do believe there's a very thin line between grace and excuses. There is a lot of grace that needs to be given, especially for perfectionists, because
Yes.
I work with women who want to make a budget and get every single dollar right. If they haven't figured every single thing out, then they won't do it. If they haven't figured out exactly what they want to invest in, then they won't invest at all. If they haven't met 100% of the job application qualifications, and they're not going to apply. If they don't feel 100% ready to start the business, then they're not going to start it. Right. And so the actions that we take are a vote for the person that we want to be. And when it comes to our money mindset, there are going to be times, and give yourself grace, right? Without excuses, give yourself grace to make mistakes and to not get everything right. And for you to go for budget sometimes, and it's okay. It's not the end of the world. And we'll give ourselves grace, right? Within reason, to take this journey and not be so hard on ourselves, because as a recovering perfectionist, because y'all, hello, I'm in the club.
Hmm.
We have to understand that the perfection that we've created is only in our mind, and it's a prison. it really prevents us from making progress. And so we have to, it's not even about settling. It's about just being okay with what you can do in this day, in this moment, at this particular season of life, and taking that next step. So I'll stop with that. But there were so many other things that you said. But I see you want to say
No,
something.
that right there, that last piece that you said, it's not about, for my perfectionists, right? It's not about settling. It's about being okay with what you're capable of doing right now in this moment and
Yep.
allowing what you're capable of to be enough to get
Hmm.
started, right?
Yeah.
And to allow yourself to sometimes be a beginner, right? This
Hmm.
is certainly, a challenge that many of my clients run into. They are often such high achievers and they are often so good at so many things that when they find an area where they're not great at it automatically,
Hmm.
right? Or they have a steeper learning curve, they feel really discouraged and often they feel really ashamed. And shame shuts down so much progress so quickly. Shame is, I've said this many times before, shame is one of the least productive, least helpful feelings that your body can create. And so I'm on a mission to, and I'm not the only one, right? Brene Brown is another
Yeah.
one, right? Is on a mission to help people, women in particular, to recognize shame when it shows up and to find ways to avoid it, to counteract it, right? To get out of it sooner
Hmm.
because whenever you're in the shame, you're not anything that you are able to create from a place of shame is not going to be something that ultimately serves the highest version of yourself. And
Yeah.
as perfectionists and recovering perfectionists, right? We're our gold star, our north star is always that highest version of ourselves. Um, but it is true that the highest version of ourselves is not who we are 24 hours a day,
Hmm.
7 days a week. So sometimes we have to be okay with being like kind of the gutter version of ourselves, right? Because
Yeah.
that version of us exists. And the
Yeah.
goal is not to allow ourselves to wallow in the gutter, right? But when we find ourselves there, to not make ourselves wrong for it and to allow ourselves to get out of it so that we can keep reaching toward, where we really want to be, which is not in the gutter. It's never in the gutter.
In the gutter. I love that. And in my business, I see this right with buyer's remorse or
Yes.
things like that, like impulse shopping. There's a lot of like financial shame and regret around like decisions that you made. And I share my story about, growing up in a household and being financially clumsy. I can say that as that because that's part of my story, but I don't wear that. Like I don't feel ashamed of those things that I know now that all those things have led me here. And if I had to go through all of those mistakes again to teach my kids, to teach my family members, to teach the clients that I work with, I do it all over again, right? And so there's so many times where I see women who are just ashamed the credit card debt that they have, or the student loan debt, or the decisions that they've made, and it stops them from seeking help or being vulnerable about their financial situations. And again, like we just cannot continue to stay there. But again, like I love that you just mentioned like the gutter version of yourself. But that's again like the best time for you if you're not good at something. That's when you can rely on the strengths of other people.
Yes.
And we are designed to be connected to each other. And I'm again grateful to be on your podcast because this is proof of concept, right? I talked about how money mindset was not something that you would have said is a strength of yours. But hey, I have a friend who absolutely loves talking about this. And this is her lane and this is her zone of genius. And just relying on other people is going to help you at least get started. And you might not ever be the next Susie Orman when it comes to your finances. However, you'll be able to know enough. You'll be equipped and empowered. Those are my two words when I'm working with clients. I want you to be equipped with the tools and the knowledge and the resources that you need and then empowered to use them because
Yes.
having again the knowledge itself is nothing if you don't actually use it, but you'll be equipped and empowered to actually go forth and use those things. And starting with me with your budgets and you're saving money and paying off debts, and then taking that that momentum, that confidence that you gain from the work that we do together, to then take that to a financial advisor who can help you with your investment portfolio, taking this information to different conferences where you can learn and challenge yourself and to continue to blossom in different areas of your finances. But this is where it begins.
So I have a couple of questions. We're gonna maybe get a little more lighthearted because I feel like, money can be such a heavy topic
Yeah.
because it can come with so much just emotional baggage for
Hmm.
folks, right? Especially if you're feeling like you're struggling with it or you're not good at it or you've made some mistakes, right? It can just feel really, really heavy. Like if you're making all the money, right, and you feel like you have everything you need and more, right? Like then talking about money maybe isn't so bad, right?
Right.
But we're
Right.
talking about recovering perfectionists who maybe have not had the kind of success with their money or with all areas of their money as they've had with other areas of life. And so it can be kind of a sore subject. So um, I want to ask you, okay, this might be a little messy. So allow me to be a little messy. Uh, Tell me, is there any like bad advice that you hear being promoted out there on the interwebs by other maybe financial experts or, maybe not necessarily coaches, because I don't want to point any fingers at others in the industry, but just is there any, you know, unhelpful financial advice, something that you tend to avoid when it comes to the strategies that you offer to your clients?
Yeah. Okay. So, one, I am a financial coach. I'm not a financial advisor. So when it comes to insurance, investments, and things like that, I don't, we don't go there. But I absolutely hate some of the tax strategy that I see on social media.
Mm.
It's the ones who tell you that you can get like the government to pay for your birthday trips out of the country,
Oh
or
gosh.
that you could get them to pay for it. You can get a G-Wagon paid for by the government, like those sort of strategies. And I'm not saying that those strategies don't work, but they only work for a very specific person. And it doesn't apply to the vast majority of people who are consuming that type of content. And so it's like I call it like the Donald Trump like level of tax strategy and tax code, but a lot of people aren't there yet. And so
Right.
there's lots of tax codes and tax strategies that do apply to the everyday person. But those aren't it. And I see like those types of strategies, like, yeah,
Yeah.
those are the ones that I'm like, every time I see it, I want to throw my phone.
All right, so we don't have to look forward to any of that kind of content. Like, just follow this 1, 2, 3 step, on your 2024 taxes, and you too can, be flying all the way around the world for free
Yeah,
on,
no.
the tax
Mm-mm.
dollars. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, y'all keep playing with Uncle Sam. Y'all heard that they just hired a bunch of people at the IRS. Y'all keep playing.
Oh goodness, that's so good. Okay. All right. Another question. Okay, actually, this one may be a little heavier, but I'm hopeful that this feels lighthearted for you. So I know you talked about your story, which involves you and your husband having kind of a lot of debt and being able to pay off that debt in a relatively short amount of time, 3 years.
Mhm.
But tell me, besides the debt, are there any other like major financial mishaps or just faux pas that you've had a hard time maybe forgiving yourself for, or that like the inner perfectionist in you has just given yourself a lot of crap for?
Oh yeah. So again, I started my business like around in 2020, and I knew that I wanted a coach for my business, and I invested in a coach that I would that I yeah, that one still kind of lingers. That one still stings a little bit. She hit me at the sensitive button in my and she hit me in a vulnerable spot.
Yeah.
And I invested in that coaching, and it was not at all what I was hoping to get from that. It took me a while to release the shame and the guilt from that experience. Um, but I needed to go through that, right? Because it taught me a lot about discernment. It taught me about like really understanding the needs of my business and of my life to figure out like how to really understand what kind of coach and what kind of support I need. I'm huge on support. Like we've talked about this plenty of times.
Yeah.
So I still have a coach right now. But I, since that experience, understand how to really kind of just one like vet people, and then also just like be more clear about what it is that I need so that I can make sure that I hire the right people.
That's so good. And you know what? I think I feel like that's almost a taboo topic for coaches to talk about on, platforms where non-coaches are listening, which is the fact that, investing in a coach doesn't always go the way we plan or doesn't always go the way that we hope. And
Yeah.
there are a lot of folks who have, let's call it coach hurt, right? Where they
Yes.
feel like they've been betrayed or they feel like they've been bamboozled by someone in the coaching industry who maybe they feel like was doing something unethical or misrepresented the service that they were offering. um, and I will just say, as a coach, there are so many amazing coaches out there,
Mhm.
y'all. Like,
Yeah.
God bless coaches. We need coaches. I believe there
Yeah.
should be more coaches, and not every coach is right for every person. Like
Yeah.
that, those are facts. I'm not the coach for
Yeah.
everybody.
Yeah.
If you've been rocking with me on this podcast for these 60 episodes and you consistently like what I'm putting down, you my people, right? Um, but there are plenty of people who don't care at all what I'm talking about. And that's
Yes.
fine
Mhm.
because I'm not
That's fine.
talking to them.
Right. Yeah. Same. And my approach and philosophy to money isn't traditional, right?
Right.
I have clients who it's parallel. Okay. I know I'm not a therapist, but it's parallel to financial therapy. We're
Yeah.
talking about money mindset, which again, very, very close line to counseling. And um if that's not what you need, if what you need is to start your finances, like my finances are on fire, I need a drill sergeant that's going to ride my ass to like make me do things. Then I'm
Yeah.
not your person because
Yeah.
one, I am going to, I have assignments for you, but I am not going to, I cannot make you do things. And so I can only hold you but so accountable. But if you need a different type of personality or a different approach to money than what I offer, I am 100% okay with telling people that I'm a good fit and I have enough people in my network to be able to refer them to people. But the sad thing with the coaching industry is like, coaching is not regulated right now. And so there's a lot of people who could call it, like anybody could call themselves a coach and they don't
Yeah.
necessarily have the qualifications and the skill set and the things to back up what they're saying. So if you are listening to this and you have been thinking about coaching, I do believe just like therapy, everyone needs a therapist at some point in their life and
And
you probably need a
everybody
coach.
needs a coach.
Everybody needs a coach. Two completely different things. Just make sure that you do your due diligence. Really take time to be aware of what your needs are in your life. Understand like who the coach is and their philosophy on coaching and what you're going to get from that experience so that you can, kind of avoid that mistake that I made.
Yeah, totally. Um, okay, I have one more fun question for you. And then look, you get to ask me questions too, because this is a conversation and I'm willing to share. Okay, so my question for you, because I think there are people out there who think that money coaches don't like to tell their coaches to spend or that they only say you need to save and invest and those are the only things you can do with your money. But I would love to hear, just to your, between homies, what is your favorite thing to splurge on?
Oh yeah. I'm not really a splurger. Let's see, where do I spend the most money? I spend the most money in like Target. I'm a girl, like Target is my downfall. Like that's where most of them, if I have miscellaneous money, because I always have like a miscellaneous line in my budget that's like flex money that I just kind of can do what I want with. That usually goes to Target. But I'm not a real splurger.
Okay, what section of Target?
Girl, anywhere could get it. It depends on the day. It literally anywhere. Like if I'm taking I might be tricking on the kids. If it's, if I'm looking at something in my house, because I'm in a minimalism phase in my life. I'm like transitioning to minimalism, but like I feel like I need minimalist like decor and like storage for things. It's a whole thing. And so the home section could also get it. It just depends. It depends.
Hmm.
But Target is my thing. And just to kind of also share, like I am not a coach that believes, in sacrifice and deprivation, especially it feels very bad to tell women of color to not be able to enjoy their money. And so what I like to help my clients to do, like I said, we talked about like their values and things like that in the beginning. Those their values are line items that we protect in their budget, and we look for ways that they can enjoy their money within reason of their like goals and the things that they're trying to accomplish, so that they don't you don't feel like you have to give up everything that you love just to pay off debt or just to save money. You can do both. So it's an and it's the life of and doing the things that you want and need to do with money, enjoying your money now and later. And so yeah, if you're looking for a coach that's not gonna tell you that you have to cut out every single thing that you love. I was literally at Starbucks yesterday. So I'm that girl. Okay. So yeah, you don't have to give up everything you love to achieve your financial goals.
Yes, I love that so much, so much. Okay,
Mhm.
those are, I think we've covered everything that I wanted to make sure that I wanted to cover so that you could share all of your juicy nuggets with my audience. But is there anything you want to ask me?
What do you like to splurge on?
Oh, um, okay, I would say two things come to mind, and it might be three, but so two things come to mind. So one, because I'm a big old nerd, I never mind splurging on like learning something. And that might be like books or like I have an Audible subscription, right?
Yeah.
Because I'm gonna listen to lots of books. I'm always telling my husband if he doesn't know what to get me the gift certificate to Barnes and Nobles because I will buy books, right?
Yeah.
Those things. And but also like coaching is something that I generally get really excited to splurge on. And and coaching can be, expensive. It can be four figures, right?
Hmm.
But I'm always really excited whenever I get to a place where I feel ready to do that. So that always feels good. But also learning like a skill or a craft. So, for example, maybe it was about 2 years ago, my daughter and I, we took guitar lessons together.
Hmm.
And it wasn't cheap,
Yeah.
um but so that felt like a splurge because it was just totally something extra, but it was something that we got to do together, and it was a skill that I got to cultivate, and I did not regret that at all.
And now that you're saying that, so I guess like experiences would be mine too. And so
Yeah,
I think a lot of the women that I work with and women that I know, it's like we will spend big bucks on experiences.
yeah.
And so because those things are priceless. And let me find out you have actual hobbies, because that's unheard of.
Yes, I have hobby. I don't know if I've really talked about this on the podcast. So um I mean, y'all have heard me say that I'm a big old nerd, so I love to read. But I also I don't do as much. I've done a bit of writing. Poetry was my jam, so I would write poetry. I would perform my poetry, so I had a stage name and everything, but that's a different story.
I can see
Um,
that now that you're doing a whole lot of this right now, and it's a lot of hand movement. I can see you and the snaps. I can see the snaps on
yep,
stage.
yep. I sing. Music. A lot of my hobbies revolve around music. So I sing. I sing every week. I love to dance. I've danced for years. As I've gotten older, I dance a little bit less. But I think it was literally just yesterday when I was doing pirouettes in my kitchen while waiting for something in the microwave. So um,
Love it.
I'm also a bit of a crafter. I actually the first business that I started, this is a little fun fact about me, was a handmade jewelry business. So I make jewelry. Yep. Again, I don't do it as a business now anymore because I just don't have the time for it. But I had that my jewelry business for several years,
Wow.
um, and from years before I got married, until maybe about 2 years after I had my daughter. And then I needed my hands to do more things to keep up with the toddler life, right? You know how that is. And so it kind of faded into the background. But it's actually something that I will still do as a hobby with my daughter because my daughter is very artistic and very creative. And so she likes to learn how to make jewelry. And I still have lots of supplies. So now I tend to make jewelry as gifts for other people, When I'm looking for something special for myself, something to do with my daughter, from time to time, I've been known to do a little bit of painting. I don't think I'm actually good at painting, though. That's just something I like to do.
Your hobby doesn't necessarily mean you have to be good at it, right? Like
Right.
it's just something
Yeah.
that you enjoy doing.
Yep.
So that's
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. So I would say those are my hobbies. Yeah.
I love it. All right, last question. So one of the things that I like to do with clients is connect their core values to the and connect the financial impact of their core values. So I'm pretty sure you know what your core values are. So can you just give me maybe like one or two, and then we can talk about like the financial impact of them?
Yeah. I would say love for humanity would be one of my core values, and I think that really is rooted in my faith.
Hmm.
I think that that's what faith looks like in practice. And I would also say creativity is a major value for me. Yeah.
Yeah. And so then we think about like the financial impact, like how does that show up in your finances, right? If your core value, well, we already kind of talked about the creativity, right? Because that's buying the paint supplies and doing all those things, or like having the experience of like the guitar lessons and things like
Mhm.
that. But for love of humanity, like how would that show up in your finances?
I think the biggest way that that has shown up is in my chosen field of work, and my career path and the way that I have chosen to earn money. So I have been called for now, we're going on, 2 decades of working in the public and nonprofit sectors, doing community development and, some type of development that is literally helping improve the quality of life for somebody. So,
Yeah.
and then I also do some volunteer work. Like I'm on the board of directors for our local Black History Museum, which is part of that as well. And so I sometimes it's not about the way I spend my money, it's sometimes about me deciding to donate my value to
Mhm.
something. Yeah. So yeah, those are major ways that that shows up for me.
I love it. Would you say like if you are you a big like giver? Like do you donate to whether it's like a church or charity, different people?
Yeah, so I've been a member of the church that I go to, in my hometown literally my whole life. And so as long as I've been earning money, I have been a regular, tither. I'm a big believer in tithing, and additional offerings and whatnot. So yes, I consistently give to church in that way. There are not a lot of other causes that I feel compelled to support financially
Yeah.
because of the way that I use my time. I think in other areas of
Mhm.
life, I feel like I'm helping in the ways that I feel like I'm able to help and, impacting the community around me and in ways that creates ripples that has the potential to continue to impact others outside of what I
Yeah.
directly do. And I feel really good about that. And so I don't feel compelled. I know there are some people who are like, I can't give my time, I can't even give it a lot of attention, but I can throw a couple dollars
Mhm.
at it, right? And I'm almost
Yeah,
the
yeah.
opposite. Hmm.
Yeah, I love that. And so that's just like something that I do with clients. Like one of the exercises that I do with clients is really helping them see like what are the things that are important to you and like how can we make sure that whatever you're doing with your finances aligns to those things. And like you said, you're already tithing, so you got that. And then you're working in an area that you value. And so the financial impact is that you're earning money from that while still get like you said, giving your value. So I was just curious about what your values were. But thanks for answering that. I love it.
Yeah, that was great. Tiffany, listen, at some point, I guess we got to end this
I
conversation or else this
know.
episode will go on forever. But I know we always have such good conversations. You have been a pleasure to have on the show. This will not be your last appearance on this show. I already see that coming. It's going to have to be a part two. Yeah. So why don't you tell the good people where they can find you and we'll link up everything in the show notes. Tell them where to find your podcast because yes, Tiffany has a podcast as well. And where they can find you on social media.
Yep. On social media, you can find me at the Lotus Legacy, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn. Make sure that you subscribe to my newsletter. Okay, me and Instagram, we're doing a thing right now. Okay, but my newsletter, my people who are in my newsletter, I absolutely love my tribe of people. So make sure that you subscribe to that, because that's where you'll really be able to find me and stay connected with all of the events and things that are coming up. And then check out the podcast. It's called Grow Beyond the Budget. And you can listen to that on any podcast streaming platform.
It's a good podcast, y'all. Yep.
Thank you.
And she has a whole episode dedicated to her grow framework. So if you're curious
Yes.
about that, she was talking about it some. You can get details on that from that whole episode. So thank you so much,
Thank you for
Tiffany.
having me.
All right. We'll talk soon. Everybody. Yes. So work with Tiffany, work with me. Everything's linked up in the show notes. All right. Y'all have a wonderful, amazing time. Peace.
Hey, thanks for tuning into this week's episode. If you have a question or a favorite insight from today's conversation, I would love to hear from you. Send me a message on social media. I'm in all the places. My handle is @LifeEditProject, all one word. And of course, my accounts are linked up in the show notes to make it easy for you. So holla at your girl. I'll be back in your ears next week with a fresh episode. Make sure that you are subscribed to the Life Edit Project podcast wherever you like to listen so that you don't miss a thing. Until then, peace.